Hello, adventurers, and welcome back to Behind the Roll, episode 4. My name's Keegan. I'm one half Love Duke Gamers, and I will be your host for this evening. Hanging out with me are my wonderful, magnificent, but not lovely friends. The same few people you see every time. We got our DM over in the corner up there. David, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. This is probably my favorite session we've had so far, so I'm excited to jump into to talking about it. We also have the wonderful, magnificent, but not lovely, Kime. How you doing, Bertrand?
Hi, everybody.
My name's
Doing well.
Kime. I'm also known as Bertrand.
Yeah.
He's a
Okay.
vampire. Spoilers. We also have the very insightful and wisdomatic. That's not a word, but we're going to go with it. Tim, aka Kosif. How you doing, Tim?
I'm feeling very wisdomy, thanks.
You're feeling very wisdomatic. Dude, it's not like I don't have Google or something on my computer. And last but not least, we have the magnificent, wonderful, lovely, wonderful, and lovely Nate, aka Ara Latrine. How you doing, Nate?
Hey,
I'm
just waiting for you to slip up and actually say it.
The next session, I'm literally gonna have a note that just is like words that like adjectives for people. That's one thing I'm going to do. First things first, though, I do want to point out, as if you guys follow at all, our last session, we were partnered with Pop in a Box, and I have my first box of Pops came in, so I got lucky enough to get a bunch of Dragon Ball Z. So I've got Android 18 was one of them. I got Gohan training outfit is another one. These are going to go on my shelf eventually. I also got, I know who she is, Bulma. I don't follow Dragon Ball Z that well, but I got Bulma. And last but not least, this was free because I had a promotion going on. I got Norbert from Angry Beavers. So obviously not from Dragon Ball Z, the one oddball. He's heavier than the rest of them, but if you use,
but you can also get a Freddie Mercury or a Michael Jordan or a Thanos if you go ahead and go to the website and use the code
saved-R1. You'll save 20% off your first order. And you'll help us out as well. So I'm excited. I've got the next box coming, obviously, next month because it's a monthly thing. But I'm excited to put these on my shelves because my collection just got cleaned up the other day. I'm looking over here because the collection's right over there. And I still have 2 empty shelves I need to fill, 2.5 empty shelves I need to fill. So I'm excited about that. I love Funko Pops. I love Pop in a Box. I've used them now this is probably my 8th or 9th month total using them with time in between. But without further ado, let's jump into Behind the Roll. And let's start off with everybody's impressions of the last session compared to the first 3. What was everybody's overall feeling when we were done with that night with the session?
The big girl panties got put on.
Yeah.
We didn't die.
We did not die. And we'll get to that at the end of what happened. But we probably faced the biggest, baddest foe we have yet.
No more wolves.
I wish there were wolves. So let's start at the very beginning of the session. We were at the camp, the Vistanti camp, with Madame Ava and her compadres. There was quite a few of them there. Torbjorn had a couple revelations at the very beginning. He was riding a horse and saw a vision and learned something about his past that may involve a gnome of some sort. I saw my grandfather with a gnome handing a letter. I then got to roll a d20 and found out that symbol on that letter was the same one that Welly had. So I've got a few questions for Welly at this point. But what was your guys' thought of how David implemented that into the session with backstory? And the fact that he incorporated another character, I think, for me personally, is kind of cool. David was actually saying earlier that Cody has no idea what's going on. But what do you guys think of how he's been incorporating the backstory concepts into our sessions?
I think it's been great. I don't think Strahd is obviously a pre-written campaign, right? Mm-hmm. So the amount of work that David has to do to tie some of those things in, and I think there's some things he's already thrown in there too that maybe we haven't even realized yet, So I think I gave props in our last podcast, just what a great job he was doing in that regard. With the little tidbits here and there, and the kind of making you want to hear more, but not too much, but hear more because you don't want to ruin it all at once. But I love it. I thought that was great. I thought that was fantastic.
I did too. It makes you think as a player too of like what does he have up his sleeve with what's going on, along with obviously the goal of this campaign. It seems like is to confront Strahd at some point. So how are you going to weave that in with that story and not get too far off track with making sure all of us get some backstory elements into it? I do have a question for Bertrand, because you immediately asked me when I came out of my vision and fell off the horse and got up. You asked me kind of what I saw. Was I guess my question to that is a sense of, from Khan's perspective, is he just curious of why Torbjorn fell off the horse, or was he curious in the sense of wanting to know Torbjorn more?
Well, he would have noticed that you weren't as drunk as maybe some others thought you were, and you have a low center of gravity. You're not just gonna fall off a horse.
Yeah.
And so from Khan's perspective, I believe I rolled to see if I noticed what was going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what I rolled, but
you were like a 17 or something.
Yeah, enough that
high.
I noticed that something was off. Something was a kilter, and it was just one of those things. Like, all right, what did you see that made you fall off a horse? Like, because it's not gonna be like, what did you hear? Like,
yeah, what happened?
So it wasn't. Khan didn't assume anything other than you were just not
my normal stable self.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I was excited because I was telling David earlier, from my perspective on that was, once I found out Welly's family was involved, I obviously wanted to ask Welly a lot of questions. But I also was trying to be careful because I feel like me and David had a conversation, and I think all of us had a conversation after last session of kind of how I was going about things. And I didn't want to railroad that in of like, oh, I need to talk to Welly now, because it's something that like Torbjorn himself was thinking about. And that's even the moment where I walked away and was looking at my sword like a few hours later, just by the river. That was what he was contemplating, was, what does this all mean? Who is this Welly person? Like, why is she so important to what's going on here? Like, Torbjorn has no idea what's going on, other than the fact that he's in a strange land and he's had this weird vision that he's unsure of how to feel about it, and he thinks it's true, and he wants it to believe it's true, but at the same time he is a bit uneasy of kind of having these visions of the future or the past or whatever they may be, to see what's going down. Because I mean, Torbjorn is not the most intelligent person when it comes to what he does, but he's a very inquisitive person when it comes to what he does. So I thought that was kind of fun. I know that's something leading forward I'm going to have fun talking with Cody about, and kind of getting her perspective on what it all means and that concept. While that was going on, we had Kosif and Kaim later on talk to Irina and a couple of the people in town, and we learned a little bit about the Vistanti. If you guys want to talk a little bit about kind of what you guys overheard. I think his name was Anton, was one of them, one guy. And then
I don't have my notes near me.
Yeah, I want to say Anton was his name.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you guys learn from good old Anton? He had a cool fire effect. I remember that.
A cool character art to go with it too.
Yeah.
Well, he told two stories. And Irina, well, he was telling Kaim the first story of the wizard that created the uprising and tried to overthrow Strahd, and then supposedly died when he was thrown over a cliff, landed in a river, which died. He fell into a river, and we know how deep the river is, so we know he could have survived.
I don't have my shirt. You can get how deep is the river at Teespring /store/ Saved by the River. Or going to say
that information becomes relevant.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was and so while that's happening, I'm talking to Irina, and she and the Vistanti don't get along because there's this rumor that the Vistanti had helped Strahd, and when I come over to talk to Kaim about it, that's when Anton spits into the fire, and we see this vision of presumably Strahd, and we hear about how the Vistanti had helped save him in life when he was a prince. They made a couple of comments too about how Strahd was. They called him their fair prince, and said that he had since been cursed, which gives the idea that maybe the way he behaves now isn't how he always behaved. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
And it from Torbjorn, because he was kind of half paying attention to some of this, and Keegan as a player, like one of the things I'm intrigued by is the fact that the Vistanti, we knew that, I think we found out last episode that they could come and go, or I can't remember if we found that out this episode, but we knew we found out they could come and go, but we never really knew why. And I feel like this kind of tied in of like, if they indeed work with Strahd, like that could be why. The curious thing to me though, and it was funny because I rewatched the episode today, getting him for preparation for this, was when we camped at that Vistani camp, David said along the lines of something like, nobody messes with the Vistani, which is why we were safe. And I'm curious, and you probably can't answer this, but I'm curious whether that means when it says nobody, does that mean Strahd because they're spying on us? And again, this is Keegan as a player, not necessarily Torbjorn would not think about this, but like, are they spying on us? Are they keeping tabs on us? Because Irina was very, very reserved to going into the camp because of what she had heard. So
the Vistani are pretty much under Strahd's protection.
Yeah,
allowing them to come and go as they see fit.
So
he's repaid that to them for as long as he's been vampire. So
I thought,
refresh my brain again. How long has that been? Did we find that
years.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So it was cool information from the perspective of like the player. Again, for me personally, like Torbjorn didn't really hear that conversation, doesn't know any of this, but as Keegan the player, my wheels start turning of like, I trusted these guys because I could drink with them. Maybe they're not to be trusted, but at the same time, Torbjorn's like, hey, these guys are in to have a good time. I'm going to hang out with them as long as I can. So like, it's quite fun to have that where the role playing starts coming in of like separating me from Torbjorn.
Back to that story too. The first story that was told about the wizard.
It's Harry Potter.
Yeah. I was, as a player and as the character, was completely intrigued with it to the point of like also trying to figure out like how long had passed since that happened to where we are now. And I think we learned that in game. I'll have to check my notes, but I don't have my notes there. But
like a year. I think it was a year.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
The wizard?
The
wizard was a year. Yeah.
Now, DM, maybe you can answer this. As we were passing by the front of Strahd's castle there, was that location where he fell off the cliff near there? Because I wanted to say something during our travels, but I didn't want to like interrupt what was going on at the time. Was that near? Yeah.
He pleads the fifth.
Fair enough. Okay.
He can't say.
David, don't play poker. You're
okay. I don't know how to like I have to like have the lore in front of me, honestly. Like I have no idea for sure the answer. Just like earlier in there where Tim had asked Irina something and I was like, oh, it's this peak. And
it was about the mountains because Tim was recalling the tarot cards, I believe.
Well, we're just
that was really more of like, I as the DM don't remember, but Irina lives here, so she surely knows the name. Yeah. So she tells you the name, but I, for the life of me, can't find it right now. So and it was Mount Gacchus.
Our party is really interested in how deep and tall things are.
Yeah.
Apparently,
we really
and what it's made out of, because every stone structure I've seen, I've asked what it's made out of. So
made out of stone.
Yeah, it's made out of stone.
One thing that I'm intrigued by is. Oh, go ahead, Bertrand. Sorry.
No, I was just calling. I was making another joke. Go ahead.
Okay.
It had
Is
big moments in this earlier.
obviously my character and what's going through my mind as a player versus the character is two different things, I guess. I know that everybody's kind of had those moments, but one thing that went through my mind as the player is my character is obviously from this area, and the Vistani, like how did? Oh, sorry, my phone goes off there. And basically, like she was smuggled out by the Vistani. Well, only the Vistani leave.
So,
so that was something that went through my head, and I was like, well, I can't really ask because and at the same time, like her answer, Ava, was just like, oh, you'll find out in due time, basically.
My favorite, one of my favorite moments from the episode, Nate, was when I rewatched it back today, was the fact that you go, I was not prepared for any of that. You at one point got, like, you're having this conversation with her and you're like, oh shit. and then
I'm trying to like get all the details and everything. Yeah.
You're trying to write everything down. You're like, I'm trying to write notes, but I'm trying to process what's going on. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I think we've all had, like, that's how I felt when I was getting the information when I was on the horseback of like, oh shit, like I got to write this shit down because this could be important down the road. But you also want to listen because you want to make sure you hear what's going on. And I think it's funny. Again, one of my favorite moments with you, Nate, was at the end where you're like, okay, bye, and she's like, bye. Just like,
yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Bye. So
yeah, it's a lot to process. So it's overwhelming.
Fitting to a young elf character, like to just be kind of like, okay, like whatever, like oh crap, that's a lot.
Which is what happens when you give the DM the backstory that you were orphaned and left at the footstep of a monastery.
yeah. DM
give
starts
me that opening.
Yeah, DMs
and
across
then
the
I
world
start creating.
Hi. I do have a question for all of you because obviously we have since left Madame Ava to this point, but what do you guys think of her? Like, it's funny because I think me and Tim were talking about this. So like in game, all of us believed her because every insight we rolled was super low.
Yeah,
but as a player, like obviously we have the information of our own backstories that we're like, okay, maybe that's true, like we don't know. What do you guys think of her as a character? Like, do you think she's somebody we should trust? Do you think she's actually knowledgeable, or do you think it's, and this is as player, not as character. As player, do you think she's somebody we should trust or somebody who's knowledgeable? Or do you think it's somebody we should be leery of? Maybe she's working for Strahd to send us in the right direction, or the wrong direction, I guess.
As a player, I think she's literally true neutral. Like she's I don't think she's playing anybody. I don't think she's really helping anybody. I mean, I could be way off base. I mean, she's obviously helping us, but I think that's the thing of true neutral is like it's not about who's right, who's wrong. It's just about truth.
It's information.
Yeah, information, truth. Yeah, what she knows. Now she could tell us more for sure, obviously, because you'll know in due time.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think everything she gave us was spot on. I don't think anything was.
Anything to be scared of, or you don't think it's David potentially sending us to a trap or something, or getting us intrigued to something?
There's a chance. There's always a chance that David is feeding us a giant MacGuffin here. Let's be real.
Go to the highest peak. Which one's that?
Yeah.
Never mind. But
yeah.
Do either of you guys have anything? Because obviously David can't answer because he's the one puppeteering.
I think she fits a very clear role in storytelling. She's setting us on her kind of like that main quest line. She's that little bridge point that gives us some information that we can work with. Very neutral, as Bertrand said, and regardless of any twist, like we have to have a direction, and somebody has to give us that purpose. I think she's a great character for that. The classic fortune teller thing is it's a trope for a reason, right? It works, and David plays it really well. His Madam Eva voice is great. She's a cool character, and I think she's getting us on her way. It'll be interesting to see if there's more to her than just that,
or if we see her again.
Right, that would be really cool, and I'd like to.
Better, I want my cheese.
Yeah. 20 gold's worth, right?
Like, I want my cheese.
A lot of cheese.
Yeah, and then wherever we go is going to be dangerous. We already know that, right? So, anywhere she sends us, just a matter of perspective if it's a trap or not, right? Anywhere we go based off the information she gave us, it's not going to matter. It's going to be dangerous because we're literally in a vampire's realm,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, all the places she sent you, it's not like she said it's going to be lollipops and rainbows all the way there. I guarantee there's going to be a fight before you get to said object.
I heard nothing of flowers and making potions along the way.
I did hear about pies, though.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good segue, my friend. Good segue.
The dream pie.
So, as we were traveling, we have left the Vistanti camp. We travel along I guess we followed the river to a certain extent. We followed the path along the river. And we saw Strahd's castle for the first time in the distance. So that was cool, as Bertrand brought up earlier. It's the first time we've actually seen where he lives. It was ways away, if I remember correctly, to the point where we couldn't really make too much out of it, other than it was huge and powerful,
big on the horizon, kind of a
thing.
Like
I think in the game we use the Disneyland castle analogy of it's there, but it's way back there, which was cool for me because again, it just because at some point we're probably going to go to that castle, if with everything that's gone on, assuming everything goes the way it goes in my head, which it never will. But at some point, I have a feeling we potentially will go to Strahd's castle, whether it's to fight Strahd himself or to get something from that castle that's needed to figure out where the hell he is, something along those lines. So I'm actually real curious to see what Strahd's castle looks like up close. But it's kind of cool of this ominous looming thing in the distance of hey, you're level 4 right now? By the time you're level 7 to 10, you'll be over there. It's like when you play a video game and you get to the new land.
You could try to go in there, but you're gonna die.
It's literally that stereotypical Castle Frankenstein, on the mountaintop. That's Castle Ravenloft through.
Could we have gone to? We could have gone to it, but
you could have gone there.
Probably not the best idea. Instead, we went to smell. We made it to where we started smelling bakeries and pastries. And this is where I think the episode I feel like we had the episode, if you take it, the session was divided basically into 2 sessions. The first session was a lot of RP, a lot of us conversing, a lot of us getting information. The second half was us fighting the shit out of everything because we went up to this windmill that Irina seemed very, very sketchy of. We also had a couple ravens that showed up, and it was really cool because I tried to talk to a raven, and I can't remember what it said exactly. I didn't write it down, but it was something of dangerous help or danger help. Because I was should we help? Lead us? Should we go in or not? And it's both. And I was fuck, I don't know. Because what was cool for the rest of the party, Kosif, Tim, could discern good and evil. He could sense some good that was inside. We just smelled delicious pastries. We didn't smell this foul-smelling, what ended up being kids inside the pastries. So spoilers. We had, spoilers. You should watch the session before you watch behind the session.
Yeah, let's be real.
Probably should explain that at the beginning.
Weird turn of events.
Yeah. But I want to talk to you because I feel like we had a debate because at one point I went up to the windmill, went around to try and see if I could find any windows or any way to look in. There's no way to look in. At that point, I was ready to back away and go away. But at that point, after that, Tim walked up and knocked on the door. What was your thought process, Tim, of because you're the one who is essentially engaged with whoever the hell was inside at the time, which ended up being three hags or witches, or I believe they're hags. I can't remember exactly
Bag.
what they were.
Yep.
Yeah. So what was your thought process of like, hey, let me just look in here as Kosov?
Yeah, well, I think it started with that discernment. I forget the name of the class power that I used. Forgive me, but being able to sense that it was something evil was happening here. My character being aligned with the good, thinking we need to potentially do something here. Now, I would have considered walking away and hoping to come back later. If I felt that it was right. But clearly the Raven, I've started to trust the Ravens. The Raven was saying, this is dangerous, but you need to help. Somebody needs to help. So I'm thinking, okay, imperative help. And then I think what really set me off to go knock on the door was we were standing there having this conversation, and I thought about the second episode where we were all standing out in front of the town, and Dave was like, you guys are all just standing out in the middle of the road talking to each other. And I think the hags were pretty much about ready to come out and see us anyway. So I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's knock on the door and let's go.
See what we got.
See what happens.
Yeah, I was right there with you. I was actually considering talking to the group and saying, let's roll. Let's move past this place. This is weird. Like, this just doesn't seem right. And then when Kym went and spoke to Irina, and I asked her, I think it said something like child schmanibalism or something.
Yeah.
And she said, I think, David, you just kind of nodded your head like as Irina, and I was like, okay, like those are the rumors. This is jacked up. Like, and then the Raven immediately just set our course for everybody, because I don't think any of our players as people, real people, were even considering leaving at that point.
Yeah, you rolled a low insight on her, but she was actually starting to kind of freak out about as you guys were approaching the windmill and realizing this thing that she had kind of hoped wasn't true, that they were about to come face to face with.
So had Irina never traveled to this location before and seen this windmill, or is it just rumors for her basically?
People in Barovia don't leave their village. They don't leave their home.
Good point. You're right. Barovia was just freaking empty.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
So, I mean, it doesn't even occur to them to leave. That's crazy. So, you guys kind of missed out on two events in the village of Barovia because you left and you guys had other things happening in your party. But there is an event where you would have encountered Morgantha with her cart selling pies in the village.
Really?
And actually taking a child as payment from, like, willingly from the parents.
Wow.
Well, the child was not willingly going, but the parents were willing.
Would that have been then the same child we would have found later on?
You would have, yeah, yep.
And hence why the kids were like, "Oh, I'm not going back."
And and so if you had confronted her there, she would have just, without a fight, given up the kid, but then just come back around for it when you guys were gone. So that was an inevitable. But
was that something that would have been triggered had we walked down a certain one of the streets or something?
It just would have happened. It was going to happen later in the evening, and you guys like kind of booked it out of there, and then you guys went to bed early in the Vistanti camp. That's not good.
Are you still there?
Because you good?
Yeah, I can
still see him.
Okay.
You can see him.
Yeah, he's moving. Yeah, you're fine.
I think I'm back. Yeah, everything just froze.
Yep, you're good. You never died for us.
Yeah, and the other thing is there's actually an event, the cemetery at midnight. All of the adventurers before you rise from the graves as these green ethereal spirits and travel to Castle Ravenloft and throw themselves off the edge of the cliff into the catacombs below.
Oh,
So
well,
you guys slept through that.
yeah. We took a nap. So good to know. I mean, Vampires Night kind of makes sense. I will say, once we got like I said, Torbjorn, when he went up to the window, kind of looked around first and then backed away at the end of it. And I was actually at that point when Tim walked back up, as Keegan the player was almost like, we should move on. But Torbjorn at that point didn't. He's very much a follower, so he's going to do whatever. I've told Tim this a little bit, but Torbjorn's starting to trust Kosif because Kosif summoned a horse, whereas someplace he should not summon a horse. He has calmed the emotions of a vampire in front of his face. Like, there's so many different. These two events have made him be like,
that did us.
yeah,
You're right.
Hey.
Like, hey, that was really cool that you calmed this vampire. I stabbed him.
I cut his fucking head off.
Yeah, it's fine. Well,
Thanks for calming him down.
Yeah, torture him. But like when Kosif went up to the windmill at that point, like again, Torbjorn was in his normal like he was hesitant, but as soon as Kosif walked up saying, "Hey, we're going in," I don't know if you guys noticed, but I literally just followed him because at that point in Torbjorn's mind, Kosif is the sign of good and evil of like, hey, this guy seems to know what's up. Until he has otherwise, he's proven to me that he seems to have a good judgment on where we should and should not go, what we should and should not do, even if I don't necessarily follow that judgment myself. So Tim knocks on the door. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say the interaction when you guys finally went into combat. I was like, why is this familiar to me? Why is this like this seems like a scene out of a movie? I'm like, this is, and then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, Phantom Menace. When Qui-Gon's like, I'm taking these people to Coruscant, and the droid's like, that does not compute. You're under arrest, and then they just chop his head off. I just felt like the thing was like gluten. That doesn't compute.
Yeah.
You guys gotta get out, and then you guys just attacked.
Trying to persuade him to tell us what's in the pie. And I was trying to think. So Keegan, the player, was like, "What can I say that makes somewhat sense in my brain of food?" And I was like, "Gluten. Pies have gluten in them." And I was like, "Hey, I'm gluten free." And I was trying to convince her that I had a gluten allergy, and she was not buying it. But because at that point, we didn't. I took a pie.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, I have a pie, but I did not trust to eat it because I wanted to know what was in it. So I was trying to like negotiate with her of like, hey, what's in this, so I can know what would have happened if I had eaten the pie. Because I came about this close to actually trying it.
That was DM's goal.
Yeah.
Oh.
I still have it. Can I throw it at somebody? I guess you can't.
So no, in the event that you guys missed, where the reason why parents are willing to trade their children for the pies is because they're highly addictive. They're very addictive, and they also make you see. It's kind of like joy from
Happy Few.
Yeah, We Happy Few. It would make you see colors and if you could see like a vampire in front of you and you would think it was a prince and just not care. It just everything was you just don't live in the reality of Barovia anymore. So people were addicted to them, and so much so that they would give their kids up for more pies.
I can still eat that pie.
Barovian meth.
I still have it.
Pretty much.
I have pie and a wolf leg still, and ashes. Put that together, got a nice stew going on. So we finally get inside and we see what we're facing, because this, I think, shortly after we actually initiated combat, to the sense of like, hey, shit's going down. She obviously didn't want us there, but we came in and we started doing combat. I think I was first on initiative roll, if I remember correctly, and I tried to shove. What's her name? Morgantha? Is that the mother?
Yeah, Morgantha was the one you shoved out.
I tried to shove her out the door. I think I failed on the first one, and I had action surge to do it again to get her out the door, because David had said right before that something along the lines of seeing all three of them together was causing like an aura or something. I can't remember the exact words you used, but there was something happening that clearly when all three were together, something was going down, So Torbjorn sees this, and his initial reaction is to just literally brute force this lady out the door, so she can't be with the other two people that are in there with her. And it was quite interesting because that essentially that move did a couple things. One, it split our party up because we had one outside, we had two inside. I think outside was me, Kime, and Welly, and then inside eventually was Kosif, Ara, and Vale, I believe, is how it was split. So we had 3 and 3. But it was just I was very scared as Keegan the player when I did that because I had no idea how strong this lady was. And then the first time you magic missiled Vale, I go, oh shit, because I just shoved her out. So clearly she's gonna probably target me at that point. But what did you guys think of that fight? What did you guys think? What was your initial reaction when you saw Vale take as much damage as she did from magic missile, and the fact that we could not avoid that shit?
Goodness gracious, dude! When I saw my screen just turn red with 1,000 D8s or D6s or whatever you were rolling, whatever. Like
it just was terrifying.
Who cares? Like there's just so many of them. It was at that point of like that as a player, I just realized that's when the gloves came off. I was like, okay, David's not. DM is no longer pulling punches. Like this is a full blown like death is on the line now.
Yeah, this was a fight that like it says in the book, if you win, you level up. So I was like, it's not gonna be easy. They're gonna suffer for this.
We did.
You know.
I think poor Vale went down 2 or 3 times.
Two times. I think.
3.
Yeah. 3. Yeah. I don't remember. A few times.
I know that I had to. Yeah.
Because I was outside the whole time fighting Margantha, but inside seemed like it was a little bit more chaotic, just because you had 2 of them to deal with. And David actually told me before this we were playing Overwatch, and he told me that we'd actually gotten the 2 sisters within like 7 HP of each other at the end of it. Like
yeah. It was really, I was like, that's so weird that the 2 of them were exactly the same. Like we were both down, like they just had 7 hit points left, both exactly at the same time. And I was like, you guys, yep, she's looking haggard, and the other one's looking haggard too. And I'm like, they have the same amount of hit points. What are the chances, you know?
Wow. Yeah, that small room, and Keegan / Torby, great move separating them and getting them outside, because like I was not as my character, I would not have gone in there at all. Like you guys saw, like my first few turns were just like peek in, take a shot, and bump back out because it was just way too crowded. And all I was waiting for was some sort of like firebolt or thunder wave or just something just to wreck everyone.
The whole windmill just comes collapsing down.
I honestly, like, there was a part of me that like wanted to call out, like to get everybody out and see if I could get all, or to take one of my actions to yell out to our party that everybody run out so I could cast something really big inside. That I'm not telling you what that is because there's going to be a point when that comes in handy, but I'm really glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Because it could have hurt the poor children.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I feel like this fight, because it went on for a good, probably 45 minutes to an hour, I felt like. It was the whole second half. It was almost 2 hours long. Yeah, it was the whole second half. How much HP did each of them have? I wasn't keeping track. Do you know off the top of your head?
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Had well over 100.
Because spoilers, after we finished that, I googled that fight and just was like seeing what each character the different, like what we just fought.
What a night hag is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I went to Reddit, and everyone was like, "Don't fight these people till you're like level 6." Like half the people were like, "I left at level 4, came back at level 6, and then fought them."
Wow.
So the fact that we did this at level 4 after reading Reddit, I don't want to say it's impressive, but there are quite a few people from my experience of reading Reddit thread that TPK'd on this because of
there was a real concern. Mm-hmm. I wasn't kidding in the beginning when I was like, tonight's TPK, completely unrelated. Just in case. Because I mean, that's what this module is. And if I kind of felt like you guys had not been challenged at all, and if you were ever going to be challenged, it was going to be for a level up boss battle like this. But I felt like you guys had it. Like, I didn't, at no point was I like, well, I feel like this is a mismatch. Like, if you guys had been still level 2 going in there, then I would have been like, the Raven says, get the hell out of here.
No way. Can I ask you a question, David? Because Vale went down and one of the sisters was attacking her the whole time and eventually didn't attack her to kill her. Was that a DM sparing her? Was that a character trait where she did not want to kill her?
So, no. It's tactically what makes sense.
Okay.
Like, I can spend around and make sure that Diana's character is dead and that you guys now are down a player. But then I still get attacked by everybody else who's still standing, and I've done nothing for that situation. So as a DM, I'm making the choice as a character that it doesn't make sense to. It's more self-preservation to attack
everybody else,
somebody else, than someone who's unconscious that I can finish later if I win.
That's a typical D&D thing too. Like you would have a very sadistic DM if we were playing a game, and the second a player goes down unconscious, if all the enemies just piled on attacked while the rest of the character team was still up.
I mean, to be fair, Torbjorn's done that now to 2 people. So
true.
I mean, it's
that's why you're not DMing.
Yeah.
If you guys ran and left her there, if everyone ran out of the windmill and she was still down, that's completely different. Then they would have definitely made sure she didn't spring back up. But you guys are still there and pushing and being a threat, so that's completely different. Like, there is a point where they'll just be like, well, yeah, I'm not gonna let her hop up in the middle of just hanging out. So
well, one thing it was doing it was completely tying me down. I couldn't be offensive hardly at all at that point, because I realized my offense, like any weapon thing that I was doing, was going to just get half damage. So I had to go spells, and so I kind of had to shift as as my character and say, okay, well, this person's down, and so it was occupying 2 people's turns essentially rather than just one. So that's just a war tactic. So
and I thought it was funny because I was gonna say, with my sword Silverlight, every time I attack I got full damage, and I noticed everybody else was getting half. So again, wheels in my head of like, what is going on with my sword? Because Keegan the player and Torbjorn the character has no idea why this is happening. He assumes there's some sort of magical element to it, but he does not understand what's going on with it. So like, just every time it glowed, you're just like, what the hell is going on? But he's cool with it because it's doing full damage. So he's like, let's just keep going and stabbing with that. So my probably the one moment I was the most concerned in that whole fight was when both me and Tim were held, because if we didn't break that, you guys are real squishy. And that was the moment where I went, oh shit.
And that was their intention too, was just hold the tanks, take them down as quick as possible, and then finish everybody off with some, magic missiles.
Because I think I broke mine on the second turn. Like, they held me for one turn, then I got on the second one, I think. I don't remember what you had, Tim.
They also hadn't seen you, Bertrand, so they didn't know that they had another spellcaster either. So they were kind of like, yeah, well, this shouldn't be too bad.
Right. Because I was still outside at the time, so was
Welly.
Welly was still outside with me.
Yep. I did ask you off stream or off podcast before, David, but Irina during this whole event just stood outside, and I kind of asked you what the mentality was behind that, whether it was she was not going to engage in combat, or was it just something of like, was that just a decision for you to like, hey, this is for story reasons, this may not go well? Like, why did you have her not join us in combat?
Yeah, well, narratively, she was horrified at the thought of what she would see going in there, and it was just kind of one of those things where it's like
She did
you
her
just
hiding in
kind of
Detroit.
denied exactly, you denied the existence of this. Now you have to come face to face with it, uh, and see with your own eyes the truth of what you've allowed to happen with your own fear. That's not an easy thing to kind of face. So she kind of just froze. Gameplay wise, she has 11 hit points, so she would have instantly
She
been,
would have been dead.
decimated in there. So
Yeah. Because I noticed that because when I was outside, I saw her up top, and I think at one point I yelled at her something. I can't remember what I yelled at her of like, "Do you want?" I think I yelled at her, "Do you want us to kill them?" And she didn't
Yeah.
respond at all. So at that point, I was like, "Well, I'm doing it." Or no, she said, I can't remember what she said. Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
she said, "Yeah." She said, "Do it." So I did it, or I attempted to do it. So that was more of after last session of Torbjorn being like, "I feel bad for killing something, but this seems like the right thing to kill."
Yeah, that definitely is the evil night hag that
Yeah.
cooks children in pies.
Seems like a good thing.
It's a safe bet you can kill her.
But he's hesitant again after what happened last combat round. So
Just you were like, hey, vampire, should we kill these things, right?
yeah. Should I?
So if we're traveling down the next chunk of woods and we see a little girl wearing a red cape and we found a house with a grandma in it, like we out, yo. Like we're in Grimm's fairy tale land here.
Yes.
That is until Torbjorn stabs him in the arm.
Yes, and take their leg.
Takes his legs. It's a wolf.
Yeah. Takes their leg.
That's an actual feature of the night hag, is that they eat children. That's how they sort of make their coven.
Jeez.
And this whole time we had no idea there's kids in the thing. We should point out, like, we had no idea. And at one point, Margantha disappeared. She went to a different plane, and that's when I actually moved inside to see what was going on. Because at that point, Torbjorn had no idea what was going on inside the windmill, just because he'd been outside fighting this one lady, and he had no idea if anybody's been down, if anybody's dead. Just no thought. He gets in there, and he immediately kind of looks around to see what's the best plan of attack, and he saw Vale on the ground. So I think I attacked the one on the left. I can't remember her name, but the one on the left first that was going after Vale, because I saw her laying on the ground. I was like, oh shit, it's not looking so good in here. If we had gone upstairs, like, did she actually like disappear, or she literally just teleport upstairs? Like, if we had gone up those stairs, would we have seen her?
No, yeah, she was in the ethereal plane as her ability to pass into the ethereal plane. So it's like when Frodo put the ring on, and I've
never seen Lord of the Rings.
And I don't know how to explain it.
How you're playing D&D, my gosh! Like you that is you're a dwarf, for crying out loud.
Now you see the problem.
Yeah, you need to put aside 12 hours and just sit. And if I lived there, I'd come over and force it.
David got me to watch Ghostbusters a couple years ago for the first time.
Yeah,
so.
you three are at partial fault here for not making him watch this. Like, make a night of it. Make a nerd night.
I've tried.
I've got kids that are making watch these movies. I don't have time to go make Keegan watch them too. You know. We'll just have you over for our next movie night, okay?
Yeah, there we go.
Not a bad idea.
Because she ended up teleporting or reappearing back upstairs. Did she reappear because I think at that point we had we killed either of them at that point? I don't think we had. I think they were both down, but I don't think they were killed.
When she went to ethereal, they were still both up, I think.
Well, when she came back, because
when she came back, it's because you killed one of them.
Gotcha. Because I remember her being on the stairs and being like, "Oh shit, that's where she." Because at one point I remember like, "Well, what do we do now?" Like, we're still in combat, but there's nobody here to attack.
Yeah.
And I was gonna start, if we didn't have anything show up, I literally was gonna have Torbjorn just swing in circles with the sword to see if he hit anything. Just be like, "What do I hit?"
A natural reaction, though, I think for most people in that situation, they went and my character would have assumed invisible. The only reason I knew any otherwise as a player is because DM said something about dimension or something like that, plane of existence. I don't remember what the words were that you used, but Like, but as a character, that would have been like the smart thing of like just start pushing around in corners of the room and.
Yeah, well, I think someone asked if they had an attack of opportunity or something, and I was like, she's not even in this plane of existence.
That's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no.
so we kill all three of them. They're all dead. Hopefully at this point we own this this windmill. We start rummaging around. I think me, Tim, and Nate are all downstairs. We're rummaging around trying to see what we can find. I find roosters and chickens that I have carved up, along with some other things. And Kym, Welly, and Vale all go upstairs and find children. And perchance since you're the only one technically up there, what was your reaction when you found out there was kids involved?
Yeah, it just assuaged my fears, and also made me feel a lot better about killing 3 old ladies.
Well, Morgantha took the night hag form, so you knew that they weren't actually old ladies anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
There was just that. There's still that wonder, like, I don't know. I guess that would be something I would have asked you in game, like as a character, would I have been familiar with a night hag?
I mean, it definitely didn't look human anymore. It was like night hags are like this monster type. They look, I guess, more like old witches, but they're monstrous, like in grotesque and
kind of like in The Witcher 3, like the 3 coven witches.
Yes, very much so.
Like okay, that's grotesque.
Like that grotesque. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's actually like exactly where it pulls. They pull from like that like old mythology of they just put stats in it and put it in. It's like D&D. There you go.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, but when I found those kids up there, it was more the shock that I think that Tim Kosef had realized that one of them was soulless. Was it you, Tim, that figured that out, or did you just kind of let us know?
Yeah, you don't need the ability to see. You can just see that if they're if they're not responsive, if they're not showing any kind of happiness or like any kind of real joy. All soulless people feel is fear.
Okay, so you letting us know that really made me curious of what it is that is going on here. We've got one child who's happy to see us, but fearful, doesn't want to go back. And like as a character, I was really struck with like, what do we do now? And that's why ending the episode where we were at, I was like, but with the children, like,
you're gonna have to take them with you to Valaki, I guess.
I flat out had a dream that night about this, that our party, that Welly taught them how to bake, and they started the business back up. Not of killing children, but like, of like making pies for like the villages and like finding sources of food.
Yeah. I'm curious because, like I said, me, Tim, and Nate are all downstairs, and I can't wait to see. We obviously don't want to spoil it here, but what the 3 of us are going to see or feel when we see these kids, because we have no idea what's upstairs at this point. All I know is I've got my roosters, I got my chickens. Tim, I can't remember what you were rummaging around for, but you were looking around for something to see if there's anything there.
I don't think I declared that I was doing anything specific. Yeah. I was just there. Yeah, I was going to, if there was time, and I'm probably doing this at the beginning of the next session, is I'd like to destroy any of the pies that are left over. We can burn them or something, prevent anybody from eating any of them. But that was the only thing I was thinking about. I just never declared what we were going to do.
Gotcha. What about you, Nate? What's your thought process on potentially finding out what's going to be upstairs in the next session?
Well, as the DM was saying, like there was, because my understanding is that it was 3 floors.
Mm-hmm.
So we were on the second floor where one group of ovens were, and then they had gone up to where
Oh, so you
there
went
was
up the
another
stairs
group
because
of
I'm on the bottom floor. So I never went up the initial set of
Okay.
stairs.
Well,
So
my
there's
understanding
an
was
oven on the
there's
first
3.
floor, and then an oven
Okay.
in the bedroom area. That's not really an oven. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the cooking
So
house.
it's where they. So it's where they basically. You guys didn't get to see this part, but so what they would do is they only cook children with souls. The soulless ones are useless. So they do a needle test, and they prick their finger to see if they're have a soul, and if they cry, they have a soul. If they don't cry, they go in the other oven.
Oh, the other oven.
They're just dead.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's a
The one that burns.
a World War II oven. I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
why, like, when you guys were wondering, I was like, "Oh, how do I
How do I
phrase
phrase
this?"
But I think it was probably, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it's probably the best session we've had so far. In the sense of between the balance of role play, how hard and how we had to work as a team in the combat. I was not gonna lie, when I pushed the one outside, I was scared shitless that because my thought was now Torbjorn is theoretically I forgot Welly and Keimer out there, but I'm like, I'm out here by myself. My 2 healers are inside going on. So if something happens to me out here, will I have a chance to yell in, be like, hey, I need help, and stuff like that. So I do love the fact that this was such a challenge and that we were able to overcome it. And like I said, after reading Reddit, it made me feel good that we're like, okay, we're not as bad as we say we are. We do stupid shit sometimes, but we also, at the end of the day, we understand what we need to get done. And the fact that we went in there in the first place, again, to me was like, it was a cool moment because, like I said, it's Torbjorn. Torbjorn did not want to go in there after he searched around and couldn't see any way of looking in to see what he's getting into. But once we were in there, he's like rolling sleeves up, ready to go to fight these things, and it was a lot of fun. I do have a question for DM. What would have happened if they'd all stayed in the same room? If we had not separated the 3 of them, what would have happened?
So how it works is the 3 of them form a coven. Individually, they have access to 3 sets of spells that they have at will. They don't even have spell slots. They just have at will, magic, missile, and a couple other not that bad spells. All 3 of them together, they have access to 7th level spells. So they could throw all kinds of things at you. But when you separated them, you limited their ability to do that. Morgantha had access still to the abilities, but the other 2 did not.
She didn't. I'm glad I shoved her out. I'm glad I shoved her out the door. Because my thought process, not to get kind of backtrack, my thought process on that was, again, once I saw them glowing, and the other thought was, we're in such a small room that if something happened, if all of us were inside of there, we're basically boned as a party. If we have one of those massive AoE damage things happen, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
So,
and they take damage too, so they have to be careful about that. They can't just. That was one thing you guys kind of had going, was that you were in there with them, so they weren't gonna just bomb it because that's their place.
Yeah.
And they're in there too. So.
Yeah. So. I'm excited for next session. I'm real curious to kind of see what's going to happen. I'm curious to kind of, as Torbjorn, to find out about the kids and potentially talk to the kids, which, how Torbjorn talking to kids is probably going to go. but just because in my brain the whole time, ever since that session, I've been going, how would Torbjorn react to this situation when he finds this information out? Because I don't know how he would react at this moment. I don't think I will until I have to approach him. So we'll see when that happens. But I'm excited for next session. We say it every single time. but I'm super excited for next session to see what's going to happen and to continue the trek into. We're still technically on our way to, what's the name of the city?
Valaki.
Valaki. I wanted to say Vistanti. Is like, that's the people, the V words.
Yeah.
We're on the way to Valaki, so I'm kind of curious to see what we're going to see in that town, city, and what we're going to step into, because I feel like the windmill was kind of like an offshoot of what we were going to do, and you could have or could not have done it, but we decided to do it. And I'm also excited to level up because I looked at my character sheet and I get an extra attack at level 5, which is wonderful. So that's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited because all I can do is hit things, I feel like. But I'm also excited in the sense
things again.
Yeah, I can hit things more.
Now you can still do that.
Yes, but I'm also excited to, like I said, the Torbjorn at the end of that session, his swords were glowing, and he wants to understand. He does not understand what that means, and he's trying to figure out what that means and kind of why his weapons did full force, why everybody else's weapons, or I think most everybody else's weapons. I can't remember if anybody else had full damage or not.
If they were magical weapons, they did full damage. If they were non-magical, they did not half damage.
So I'm just, again, from Keegan as the player with my backstory I've got going on of like, the hell happened to these swords, and why am I in possession of something that has this ability? So Keegan the player says David did it so I could actually hit somebody for full damage because I don't have any spells. That's my thought process. Like, otherwise I'm useless. But you guys have any final thoughts on the session before we close out here? And we got anything they want to add?
No.
Nope. Cool.
Yeah. I mean,
I think pretty good.
Yeah.
This has been Behind the Roll, episode 4. Follow us on July 2nd, I believe. It's Tuesday. We're not going to be going live on Monday. Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be going live with our next episode of Saved by the Roll. Like I said, I'm excited to see where we go. I'm also curious to see what the party decides to do with the windmill itself and how we're going to handle that situation, in the sense of, like, is it going to be standing when we're done? Are we going to what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the kids? Like, these are questions we all have going. Yeah, murder. Just go poof and kill them all. But again, you can, if you guys are a Funko Pop fan, you can get Pop in a Box. If you go to popinabox.us and you use the code SAVE-R1, you save 20% off your first order. And like I said, I'm literally, as soon as I'm done here, I'm putting them up on my shelf, because I kept them in the box for this purpose. They've been sitting on my desk since I got them in a couple days ago. But so happy to be partnered with them, and I am so happy to have these guys on this adventure with me, because I think it's a lot of fun. Every week we look forward to the session itself. New merch is also up on savebytheroll.com. You go to savebytheroll.com and click on the merch button there. We have a bunch of new merch you can get. It is officially live, the How Deep is the River shirt. So if you want to get the How Deep is the River shirt, that is officially up online now. Right now, it only comes in unisex t-shirts. I'm working on getting them in women's here shortly. But as of right now, it's only unisex t-shirts and only in black. So, but thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank all these wonderful people. I mean, wonderful now instead of lovely for every word, because I can't think of another word. Leave in the comments down below what words I should use instead of wonderful and lovely. I'd love to know. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. And as always, happy adventuring. Bye.